Welcome to another Division build video. In this build video I will present you one of my favorite builds out of the last global event, Strike, the third one we got, and yeah, I think this is the right location to do this. No, it's not a Bullet King build, but I think this guy has to die a lot the last couple days or the last global event, because yeah, the main focus was on the Rikers and you had to get Riker kills to get a Commendation and a mask. And yeah, as I said, it's not the Bullet King build, but for me personally, as you know, I'm mainly a PvE player and often solo on the way in the division. So this is one of really my favorite builds out of this last global event. But as I said, not Bullet King, for me is the Survivability King. And probably you know it already because of my health bar and the little sign below. Yes, of course, it is the Nomad. Path of Nomad. It's an awesome build, I would say, especially as I said, if you run PvE and solo. It works for PvP as well. Marcus Style did a really good video about this as well, so just check this one out. I use this one, I will upload a gameplay at the end where you will see how I finished the Legendary WarrenGate Solo with this build, but I uploaded just the final part, the boss part. It took just too long, the rest. But you will see how it works, and I would say pretty well. And as I said, the main focus on this one is really the survivability. What the? I killed this guy before, so some people oh my god, I killed Bullet King before, but now his buddies are angry about me, so let's see. Yeah, and one thing I should say about this build, for me personally, as I said, it's really an awesome build. Just stand in the right position, photo shooting, it's really an awesome build, and you have so many options to run this build, so I will not say this is the best of all, the best option for you too. As I said, always just let inspire you from this video and test it out what works for you, and please don't copy every build one-to-one for yourself. Of course you can do it, but just to test it out. And if it doesn't work, then change something on the build until it works for you. So just for an inspiration for you, this one works really, really well for me. I hope so for some of you as well. So, but let's get right into the build. Start with the chess piece. As you see, chess piece is rolled on stamina and major skill power, skill haste, and health and ammo capacity. To go quickly over the path of Nomad, the talents you get for this doesn't know this. 2 set bonus, 15% health on kill, really nice, especially PvE as I said. Nomad's Resolve grants constant small heal, allowing the user to rejoin all segments of the health bar during combat, really nice as well. You will feel this difference, but especially where this goes to shine is the 5 and 6 piece bonus, but we'll go after this one, sorry. 4 piece bonus, when received fatal damage, you are instant healed to full health, can occur once every 4 minutes. So this is another, let's say, recovery link in this way, yeah, definitely another recovery link you get, so a third life, let's say. Then the 5th one, 10% health on kill added, so you have 25% health on kill. It's a lot, a fourth of your health bar, so that's really, really nice. And the heal results now in an overheal. So it's like you would have a vigorous, and that's really, really nice. 6 piece, then I show you quickly something about the 5 piece. 6 piece bonus, 50% chance to have no cooldown for Path of Nomad. Take 60% less damage for 10 seconds after Path of Nomad is triggered. That's so awesome, and as you see, if the third life, I will say them, is triggered, you have a chance that it's not procs, so you can use it right away. And you deal so much less damage, you take so much less damage when this procs. So that's so awesome, definitely, and I think for PvE and PvP. I will definitely give this a try in skirmish as well, and some PvP encounters. But as I said, for the moment I really focused on PvE for this build. And one thing I will show you just quickly to the character sheet, and here survivability, as you see, max health, probably not that high for 1.8, but for me, personally, for PvE with this build it's enough. And you see 250,000 health, and that means when you have the overheal, which you see on my health bar, it's half the health bar, so you can imagine it's 375 when you have this overheal health, and that's really, really awesome. The mods I'm using here is Skill Haste and Firearms. Then let's go to the mask, because as you see it's pretty balanced, I would say, this build. 4k stamina, about 4.5k electronics, so I have pretty high skill power to get a good pulse and a good heal out of the skills I'm using. And yeah, I think to tell this right away, the main issue with this build is that you deal not that much damage. As you see, that's why I spec a little bit more into firearms, as the most builds I would say in 1.8. But yeah, survivability with this build is no issue, so you can spec definitely a little bit more into firearms. The mask, you see I started to max it out, but my resources of Division Tech went low, so I have to focus on the main things and couldn't maximize all of them. But it worked anyway. So here, major skill power, minor damage to elites, especially for PvE, as I said, skill haste, electronics mod. Of course, for PvP, you would re-roll the minor attribute, damage to elites too, shock, burn, disorient, whatever, some kind of this one, or disrupt, I mean, for the EMP stickies. And let's go ahead to the knee pads. Knee pads are rolled into firearms with skill power, damage to elites, bleed and disrupt. I personally don't care too much about the minor ones, so that's why I just re-rolled one stat. And yeah, the skill power is pretty important for me on this one. Again, a skill haste and firearms mod, and first aid self-heal. This depends really much. You will see in the gameplay on WarrenGate Legendary that I use a turret and seekers, airburst seekers, and then of course you choose other performance mods as this one. And this is the thing I said at the beginning, you have really so many options to run this build. This is just my main setup, but as I said, then I switch, especially this one here, prototype performance mod, to other ones. And here you see, yeah, I don't have to say many things about the holster, skill haste and pretty high stats all over the board. The gloves I'm using is crit damage, SMG damage and skill haste. I swapped this out, this was mainly for Dark Zone, and just if I met some rogues there, then of course I will increase my SMG damage and the crit damage, but for PvE and the missions I changed to this one here. And you see here I have LMG damage, enemy armor damage and skill haste, and this works pretty well because of the guns I'm using, and you will see, or you see it right away on the left side, Big Alley and House. Of course, if you don't have them, it's not a problem, you can use other guns as well. You can use every gun with this build you like, so that's a really nice thing as well. Let's go ahead to the final gear piece. It's backpack and rolled into electronics with skill power as a major attribute and ammo capacity. Yeah, you need a lot of ammo, usually, especially with the Big Alley. That's why it's almost a must to have Big Alley have ammo capacity there and on the chest piece. Then the mod is again a firearm skill haste mod with 2 prototype performance mods, skill haste. First it's self-heal, I mean. Yeah, that's it for the build. So let's go ahead to the weapons. As you see, my 2 weapons of choice is one, the Big Alley. I got really a god roll, I would say, for PvE. Most of PvE if you encounter some elites, and this works pretty well against the bosses and so on, with ferocious and destructive and the cover shooter talent from the Big Alley. I did already a video about the cover shooter to show how good it is in the strikeable video. You can check this out as well if you're interested. As you see, 16.1 seems not that high, but you have to add the 22% damage to target out of covers, which, yeah, I think we can be sure here that mainly the most of them are always out of cover. So then 20% more means about 3.5k, plus minus means about 20k damage with 1000 RPM. It's not that bad to damage out of cover, to targets out of cover, and the cover shooter 50% more if you have the full stacks. It's quite a lot, about 30k at the end. So that works pretty well with this build. The mods I'm using here, it's a little bit special, that's why I go over the mods here, because I don't go over the mods on other build videos. Will you kidding me? Come on. Some PCs are sneaking around here. Yeah, the mods are a little bit different. usually I don't go upstairs, let's be honest. Almost all the ones with damage except the sniper, and then depends on the build of course. If you have Deadeye, then you have crit chance, crit damage or crit damage as well. But on this one, as I said, a bit special probably. As you see here as a muzzle, I use one with stability, crit damage, crit chance. Yeah, because sometimes I feel the Big Alley it's not that easy to control with this high RPM. That's why I prefer to have stability and land more shots instead of do more crit damage with this one. So the second one is the scope up there, and the scope main one is accuracy, crit chance, crit damage as well. But yeah, with accuracy, especially when you stand and shoot, like this one, then you have a smaller scope up there, or aiming there in the front. I missed the right word now. If you don't have this, then this one is really high. So just let's compare it quickly. I don't know if I have another one equipped. Yeah, here's the other one. Without it, let's see, it's a little bit bigger, and that's the main reason. So if you're in a combat and you move, especially when you move, then this one is really big. And if you have this one equipped, then it's smaller and you can land your shots more accurate, like the name it says already. That's the main thing I changed on this one. And yeah, of course here nothing special. Max size, reload speed, rate of fire, works pretty well. Rate of fire is discussed, you can discuss this if it's useful or not, but I enjoy to do so many rounds per minute. So it's a personal preference, but test out for yourself what works. Then the house as a secondary with destructive and responsive, really nice as well from the rolls there. Of course responsive and deadly would be god roll for PvP as well. And yeah, you see 23 crit chance, pretty high damage without the gloves. Just to show you quickly when I change the gloves to the ones with SMG damage, how it looks after this change. It's 21.9k, I think, pretty nice for this one. Destructive, yeah, and mainly I use for close encounters in PvE the house for red bars and purple ones, and if I encounter elites, then I swap to cover mainly and choose the Big Alley. But as I said, you can use an assault rifle, you can use another LMG like the Pacan, like the MG5, like you can use as well a marksman rifle. But for this legendary, to be honest, it didn't work that well because the damage is just too low to do a lot damage. So and you can suppress them a lot better with an LMG. That's why I prefer an LMG with this build. For the mods, don't go over the mods on this one, nothing special. It's crit chance, crit damage all over the board, as you see. So then let's go ahead to the abilities, and as I said, here you have really so many options. That's incredible. But just to tell you the two choices I made for my main build, as I said at the beginning, the main problem, when you will say problem, is the damage you deal with this build. You have no increased damage on the gear pieces, like on Predmark with the bleed and the assault rifle and SMG damage increase. You don't have this on this build. That's why I choose the Spalt Tech Scanner to increase the damage and to have booster shot. You see the self-heal, it's not that bad. It's almost half of my health. Yeah, 250,000, a little bit less, a little bit more than a health bar, but I have increased damage and decreased the incoming damage, so that works pretty nice, at least for me. Of course, you can run 2 healing skills with a immunizer as well to get rid of bleed effects and everything else, and you have much more survivability. As I said, because I have survivability with this build, I was using 2 things to have a little bit crowd control and stop them from rushing, especially in the legendary mission. For every other mission, I would say, for if you do Lexington Challenge or whatever, then this setup works pretty well too. But for legendary, yeah, you need a source of crowd control, otherwise it could be really hard. That's why I choose to run the airburst, not to deal that much damage, but to stop them from rushing and to have time to shoot them with my weapons. And this one, the turret, of course, to have crowd control. And that's the main source you can change these mods as well, of course, to turret damage or support station healing speed, or hey, come on, now it's loaded. I'm so sorry, I didn't know that on this spot so many NPCs rough. And come on, of course I record it again for you, just leave a comment. Sorry for this, for all of you watching the video. I know I talked a little bit too much here, but I will explain it in depth so that you can build it as well. So I think I told enough about this one, but just test out what works for you. And of course this one you can run whatever you like. If I run solo, if I proc the Nomad and I don't have it for the next 4 minutes, I just like to have a recovery. But for Dark Zone or other encounters you can choose whatever you prefer. Just test it out what works for you. But this is my preferred setup. Then here you see this is my main setup for the Dark Zone as well. And for cleaners, and this is one talent that changed in 1.8 and a really nice change in my opinion. Adrenaline, as you see description, medkit now gives 7 seconds of immunity from status effects. And 7 seconds is a long time. That works really nice. And yeah, there are many with shock turrets in PvP still, because yeah, with other turrets, flame turrets, it's lossable, you don't do any damage anymore. And if you have it in PvE for cleaners, when you get the burn effect, that's so annoying in my opinion. If you don't have that much burn resistance on your build, then just pop a medkit, you have 7 seconds time, and I guarantee you with this build you can melt a lot of NPCs in 7 seconds. Cleaners, especially with the weak points. So this one works pretty well. Then the crit save as usual, strike back as usual. If in the gameplay you see at the end I changed to wildfire because I run the flame turret and the airburst seekers to spread the state of effect, burn status effect, and I run precision as well. And precision I run there in the gameplay especially because I didn't run pulse to increase the damage a little bit. And yeah, as you know, probably 12.5% crit chance increase and 25% crit damage if the target don't have a concealed. And yeah, I think PvE there has no NPC concealed there. But here, as I said, you have so many options here as well. If I run this in a group, of course, then combat medic, but let's be honest, it's not really a group build. You have just the survivability for yourself, but not especially for your group. Yeah, that's the setup I run with this build, and if you're interested quickly in the character sheet, just for the ones that are interested in it, not that important or that high. I think the main things for me is damage to elites. Enemy armor damage is pretty nice, and you see this one is with my house. And skills, kill haste is maxed without attack piece. I think all over the board it's a pretty balanced build for me, as I said, and it works pretty well. And let's go for the final words in front of this nice sign from Bullet King. And thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't done it already. Enjoy the gameplay and see you in the next one.